The Merrick family moved into the yellow house at the end of Eldridge Lane on the last Saturday of August. It was the kind of house people drove past quickly now. The lawn had grown long. The white shutters needed paint. The swing on the porch that nobody had ever sat on still hung there, and on some evenings it moved a little, even when there was no wind. The house had stood empty for 2 years. It was priced the way houses are priced when someone wants to stop owning them. Ray Merrick saw the number and laughed out loud and called his wife into the room. Dana Merrick saw the number and did not laugh. She asked the realtor once why it was so low. The realtor said the previous owners had passed away. He said the market was soft. He said the furnace was old but strong. All 3 of those things were true. The Merricks did not ask anything else. People who need a cheap house learn not to ask anything else. There were 4 of them. Ray worked for a logistics company 2 towns over. He left before sunrise, came home after dark, and spent the hours between apologizing to strangers on the phone. Dana had not slept a full night in 5 years, and it showed in her the way weather shows in a fence. Owen was 9, and Lily was 5. Lily had been born with Down syndrome. She had also been born, her mother liked to say, with the volume turned all the way up. She laughed with her whole body. She cried the same way. She ran instead of walking and climbed instead of sitting. And in the old apartment, 4 rooms, thin walls, neighbors who banged on the ceiling with a broom, the crying had been most of it. The meltdowns came in waves. Dana knew their weather the way sailors know the sea. A missed nap, a wrong-colored cup, a door closed too fast. Then an hour of screaming that left them both wrung out on the kitchen floor. Dana loved her daughter the way you love something you are also holding together with both hands. And Owen. Owen was the quiet one. He had not always been. There were photographs of a small, loud boy in a cape jumping off furniture. But the photographs stopped around the time Lily was born, the way photographs do when a family's camera turns to point at something new. The day Lily was born, Owen was 4 years old. He was brought to the hospital in his good shirt, and he was lifted up to see the bundle in the plastic cot. And he did something nobody had asked him to do. He took his rabbit, the grey one, the one he had slept with every night of his life, the one that had been washed so many times its fur lay flat, and he pushed it in beside her blanket. "So she won't be scared," he said. Everyone said it was the sweetest thing. 2 years later, during a move in a garbage bag of old germy things that Lily had chewed on, the rabbit went out with the trash. Nobody decided it. It just went. Owen looked for it for a week. He asked about it twice. Then he stopped asking. He stopped asking for a lot of things around then. It was nobody's fault. That is the thing that has to be understood about the Merricks, because everything that happened after depends on it. Nobody chose Owen last. There was simply a daughter who needed everything, and a father who was never home, and a mother with 2 hands. And Owen learned, the way water learns the shape of its container, to need almost nothing at all. He was 9 years old, and he could make himself so quiet that people forgot which room he was in. He was very good at it. He had no idea yet how good. The first week in the yellow house was boxes and takeout, and the smell of other people's dust. Ray carried furniture and said the word potential many times. Dana unpacked the kitchen and braced herself, because a move was a broken routine, and a broken routine meant Lily would come apart, and Dana had budgeted 2 weeks of screaming into her soul the way you budget money for a repair. The screaming never came. On the second day, Lily found her room. It was the smaller of the 2 children's bedrooms, at the end of the upstairs hall, with yellow light in the afternoons. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, very still, which was not a thing Lily did. Then she laughed, her whole body laugh, the one that used all of her, at the empty corner by the closet. And from that day, the room was where she wanted to be. Dana waited for the wave. The wave did not come. Lily slept through the night, the first night, and the second, and the 10th. She ate what was put in front of her. When the moving truck backfired in the street, she did not scream. She looked toward the window and then went back to her toys, as if someone had explained the sound to her. She played in her room for hours. Dana would stand outside the door and listen to her talking. Long, happy, up and down streams of talk, half words and half Lily. And she would hear her laugh and pause and laugh again, the way you laugh at someone who is being funny on purpose. "She's got an imaginary friend," Ray said, around a fork in week 2. "That's normal. That's development. That's a good sign." He had read half an article once. Dana said. Here is what Dana was doing while she said it. She was sitting on the couch at 4 in the afternoon with a cup of coffee that was still hot. She could not remember the last time she had finished a cup of coffee while it was still hot. Somewhere upstairs her daughter was laughing at something. The television was on. Nobody needed her. 5 years. 5 years she had been listening with half of her body, all day, every day, the way you listen to a pot that boils over the moment you leave the kitchen. And now the house was quiet, and the quiet was not the dangerous kind, and the coffee was hot. She cried a little that first time, sitting on the couch. Not from sadness. If you had asked her, if anyone had made her say it out loud, she would have told you the truth. The new house was good for Lily. The space, the light, the room of her own. The new house was good for all of them. She told herself that. She had 2 months left to tell herself that. In the basement, that first week, Ray found the freezer. It stood against the far wall under the stairs' shadow, an old chest freezer, the color of dirty milk, unplugged, with a skin of dust on the lid. It had come with the house. Everything had come with the house. The washer, the dryer, the curtains, the garden hose coiled by the back steps like something sleeping. That was what an estate sale meant. The realtor had used the words "as is," and "as is" meant that somewhere, in some file, there had been nobody left to want any of it. Ray put his hand on the freezer's lid, and then, for a reason he could not have named, did not open it. He said he'd borrow the dolly from work and haul the thing out. He said it in September, and again in October. The freezer stayed. Things stayed in that house. That was its talent. Owen's room was across the hall from Lily's. For the first week he kept his door open out of habit, because in the old apartment an open door had meant Lily. She had come to him a dozen times a day, all her life, to show him things, to take his things, to fall asleep against his arm in front of the TV so that he had to sit still for an hour, holding the remote out of her reach, pretending to be annoyed. He complained about her the way boys complain about weather. She was loud. She broke his models. She followed him everywhere. She followed him everywhere. In the new house, day after day, his door stayed open, and the doorway stayed empty. He told himself it was great. He had space now. He had peace. He built a model in one sitting without a single small hand reaching for it, and when it was done he held it up and turned around to show it to the room. And the room was just a room. Down the hall, behind her closed door, his sister was laughing at someone. It took Owen 3 weeks to knock. He didn't plan it. He was walking past her door on a Saturday and he heard her say something in her up and down half-word way, and then he heard her wait, actually wait, leaving a space in the air the size of an answer, and then laugh. People don't wait like that for nobody. Even a 9-year-old knows the shape of a conversation. Owen stood at the door. Under the sound of the television downstairs, under the hum of the furnace coming up through the floor, he listened. Lily said something. The space, and inside the space, very small, very soft, like a sound a house makes. Something answered her. Owen knocked. The room went silent. All of it. Both of it. Then Lily's voice, delighted. "Owen! Owen, come in!" He opened the door. His sister sat on the floor beside her bed with her toys laid out in a half circle, facing the wrong way, facing the bed, the way you face a person. She was alone. The window was closed. The closet was open 2 inches, and behind the closet's darkness was only darkness. "Who are you talking to?" Owen said. Lily smiled at him with her whole face and said her friend's name. It was the first time anyone in the family had heard it out loud, and Owen, 9 years old, standing in the doorway with one sock on, was the only one who ever heard it clearly. "Daniel," she said. "He lives here." Act 2. The first thing to understand about what happened next is that nobody in the Yellow House was stupid. Dana heard the name Daniel within the week. Lily used it at dinner, asked for a second cookie for Daniel, carried it upstairs with the ceremony of a waiter. Dana let her. You let them. Imaginary friends eat a lot of cookies, and the cookies turn up later behind the couch, and it's fine. Except the cookies did not turn up later. The second thing to understand is that the house made not looking easy. That was its other talent. It had a way of giving each of them exactly the thing they were starving for, and a person eating after a long hunger does not look up from the plate. It gave Dana quiet. It gave Ray a wife who wasn't drowning, which meant it gave him permission to take the extra shift, to answer the phone at dinner, to be 40 minutes away with a clear conscience. And in the 3rd week of September, on a grey Tuesday afternoon, it gave Owen his rabbit back. It happened like this. Owen had started sitting outside Lily's door, not every day, not so anyone would see. He brought a comic and sat in the hall with his back against the wall, next to her doorframe, and read, or held the comic and listened, which is a different thing. Inside, his sister talked and laughed. Sometimes there was a small sliding sound, a toy moving on the floorboards farther than a toy should slide on its own. He was not scared. That is the strange part, and he noticed it himself. Sitting there should have felt like sitting outside a haunted room. It felt like sitting outside a room where 2 kids were playing without him. It felt like the old apartment from the wrong side of the door. That Tuesday, the door was open a hand's width, and through the gap, Owen could see his sister sitting on the far side of her bed, cross-legged, facing the wall, deep in negotiation with someone about whose turn it was. Owen leaned in, just to see her, just to be. This is the truth, and he could never have said it, just to be near her for a minute. And from where he leaned, low, at a 9-year-old's height, he could see under the bed. There was a boy under the bed, not a shadow, not a shape. A boy, small, 6 or so, lying on his stomach with his chin on his folded hands, the way boys lie under beds. Blue pajamas, hair that stuck up at the back. He lay in the dark under there, as if the dark under a bed were a place a person could live. The boy was looking directly at Owen. Owen did not move. His body understood before he did, the way bodies do. His skin went cold in a sheet, ankles to neck. The hallway behind him stretched. The comic slid off his knee and he did not hear it land. The boy under the bed did not move either. He looked at Owen with a calm, frank, measuring look. the look one kid gives another across a playground. And then he did two things. He smiled, and he pushed something out from under the bed, across the floorboards, into the light of the doorway. It was a rabbit. A grey rabbit, washed so many times its fur lay flat. Its left ear was chewed thin. Its eyes were two black buttons, and the button eyes looked at Owen, and Owen looked back, and something inside him, some load-bearing wall from when he was 4 years old, went. His rabbit. It was impossible, and he knew it was impossible the way you know it in daylight, at school, in a world with rules. But he was not in that world. He was kneeling in a hallway in a too-cheap house, and the smell of the rabbit reached him, dust and something faintly cold, like the concrete of the basement, and his hands remembered its weight before he picked it up. 5 years old again, Lily crying through the wall, everyone busy, and one soft grey thing that had belonged only entirely to him. You could ask, and later, everyone would ask everything, why a smart, quiet, careful boy would take a gift from a thing living under his sister's bed. But that question comes from people who were found when they hid and heard when they spoke. Owen picked up the rabbit. The boy under the bed watched him do it. Then he raised one small hand, laid one finger against his lips. Shh, and smiled again, and slid backward into the dark under the bed, the smooth, wrong way a swimmer slides backward into water. And where he had been there was floor and dust and a sock of Lily's. On the other side of the bed, Lily laughed at something and kept playing. Owen went to his room. He put the rabbit on his pillow. He sat on his bed and looked at it for a long time. He was 9. He knew about ghosts the way kids know, as a fact of television. He knew he should tell someone. He walked to his door twice. He got as far as the top of the stairs once and stood there, listening to the TV downstairs, working the sentence in his mouth. There's a boy under Lily's bed and he gave me my rabbit back. And who was that sentence for? For his father, 40 minutes away, apologizing to strangers? For his mother, on the couch in the first rest of her 5 hard years? His mother, who when Owen came to her with anything, had one tired reflex, one sentence worn smooth as a stare. Not now, honey. I've got Lily. Owen went back to his room. He got it, you see. He was the only one in the house equipped to get it. The boy under the bed was hiding and playing and giving away his best thing so someone would let him stay. Owen knew that kid. Owen had been that kid his whole life. That night at dinner, chicken, rice, Lily arranging her rice into piles for reasons of her own. Owen asked, in a voice so casual it had taken him an hour to build, "Mom, whatever happened to my rabbit? The grey one, from when I was little?" Dana was cutting Lily's chicken. She did not look up. "Your what, sweetheart?" "My rabbit." She frowned at the middle distance, the way you frown at a math problem that isn't worth solving. God, that thing. I don't know. It got lost in the move, maybe? The old move? Honey, that was years ago. She said it kindly. She said it with no idea at all. That was the whole of it. She was not lying, and she was not cruel. She simply did not carry the rabbit anywhere in her, and Owen did. Owen carried it in a load-bearing wall. And the distance between those two facts was the exact width of everything wrong in that family. "Yeah," Owen said. "Probably." Upstairs that night he slept with the rabbit under his arm, the way he had when he was small. He was ashamed of it. He checked his door was shut first. He slept better than he had in years. What came after was, by every visible measure, the happiest stretch of the Merrick family's life. October came in gold and cold. The furnace woke. The old ducts ticked and breathed behind the walls like something settling. Lily thrived. There is no other word. She thrived, ate, slept, laughed, learned 2 new signs and a full sentence, and her teachers at the Tuesday program used the word blossoming, and Dana wrote it in the Notes app on her phone so she could look at it. Dana slept 8 hours a night. She read a novel, a whole novel. She and Ray went to dinner alone once, like people in an ad, and laughed at how strange it felt, and drove home half scared of what they'd find, and found a quiet house and both children in their rooms. "See," Ray said in the driveway in the dark, "we turned a corner." He believed it. He deserves that much. He believed it completely. And Owen lived on the threshold. That is the only way to say where Owen lived that October. Not inside the game. Inside was Lily's and the boys, and their 2 voices ran up and down behind her door all day. Not outside it either. He sat in the hall. He left his own door open again. Sometimes Lily dragged him in by the wrist to be audience. Sit, Owen, watch. And he sat on the very edge of her bed and watched his sister play elaborate, patient, 2-sided games with an empty patch of floor that was not empty, and the hair on his arms stood up, and he stayed anyway. Because here is the thing nobody counted on. Around her friend, Lily was gentle. The tantrum weather had gone. Someone had taught her turns, and waiting, and quiet, the way an older kid teaches a younger one. And in the middle of it, she would look up at Owen on the edge of the bed and light all the way up, the old way, the way she used to light up when he walked in. And for a few minutes, it would be the 3 of them. And the room would feel, God help him, full. Sometimes on the edge of that bed, Owen felt watched in a way that had weight to it. Sometimes the air near the closet stood too still. One time, he came in to fetch Lily for dinner and felt, plain as a hand, that he had interrupted something, that the room had been about to be somewhere else. He took the feeling to bed with him each night, along with the rabbit, and each morning the daylight sanded it down. He never told his parents. Of course he never told them. The boy under the bed had bought his silence with a rabbit, but that is not really what he bought it with. He bought it with the only currency that works on a boy like Owen. He had seen him. He had picked him, out of everyone. Nobody had ever picked Owen out of everyone. The toys began to migrate that month, and Dana noticed the way you notice a smell in a house you live in, which is to say, barely, and then not at all. A plastic pony gone from the bath. The stacking cups gone from the kitchen. One by one, gradually, Lily's things went upstairs and did not come down, and when Dana thought about it, she thought, she keeps them in her room now, and that was true. Nobody asked where in her room. A 5-year-old's room eats toys. That's what it's for. And once, late in October, a Sunday, Dana walked past the hall register downstairs, the big one, the brass grill low in the wall, and stopped. A smell came out of it, faint, on the furnace's breath, arriving in slow pulses, the way things arrive through ducts. Not garbage, not mouse, she thought, though Ray said mouse. It was a cold smell, cold and mineral, like the basement, like wet stone, like the inside of something that had been shut a long time. Something got in the ducts and died, Ray said, and sprayed something pine-scented through the grill. And for a few days, the house smelled like a cold pine forest, and then it just smelled cold again. They stopped noticing. You can stop noticing anything. It is a human superpower, and in the yellow house it was the difference between life and death. And nobody in the family knew which side of that difference they were living on. The last time anyone heard Owen Merrick speak was the second Friday of November. It was nothing. That is what has to be understood. It was nothing at all. Dinner was done. Lily had gone up. Her door had clicked. The game had started. The small up and down of her voice through the ceiling. Dana was at the sink. Ray was at the table with his phone. Owen stood at the bottom of the stairs. He had the rabbit with him. He had started carrying it in the evenings, low against his leg where nobody would ask. He looked up the stairwell toward the landing, where the light from Lily's door lay yellow on the wall. Then he looked back, into the kitchen, at his mother's back, and his father's bent head. "Night," Owen said. Nobody heard him. The tap was running. The phone was on. He waited a second, that habit of his, leaving a space the size of an answer. Then he went up and knocked on his sister's door, 2 soft knocks, and the voices inside went quiet and the door opened, and it was not Lily who opened it. And that was the 2nd Friday of November. This is what the Merricks saw after that. They saw their son. That is the trap of it. They saw him all the time. Owen at the end of the upstairs hall, standing at the window. Owen crossing the living room doorway in the blue evening before the lamps went on. Owen on the basement stairs once, halfway down. Still, when Dana went to move the laundry, she said his name and he did not answer, and she carried the basket up past him with her hip and said lightly, "Fine, be that way." He had been a quiet boy, always. He became a silent one, and in another family the change might have rung like an alarm. In this family it fit. It fit the way the last piece of something fits. "He's 9 going on 15, Ray said. "He's moody. He's fine. He did not come to dinner, but food went. Plates left on the counter emptied, cereal disappeared. And twice Dana saw Lily carrying a loaded plate up the stairs with her ceremonial waiter's walk, and it was cute, and she let her, because the alternative was a fight, and there had not been a fight in this house in 2 months. "Picnic," Lily said, "for the boys." The plates came back, scraped clean, to the kitchen counter in the night, without a sound. Dana told herself her son was eating. She told herself he was up there in his room in his moods, growing away from her the way boys grow. She told herself, in the deepest place, one thing more, the true thing, the unforgivable ordinary thing, that it was one less worry. That with Lily light and Owen silent, the house had reached a kind of stillness she had been owed for years, and she was, God forgive her, resting in it. She told herself, all of it, the same way, in the same house, at the same kitchen counter. A man named Mark had once told himself his wife was getting better. The house was good at helping people tell themselves things. It had been practicing. Some nights that November, if you had stood on the sidewalk on Eldridge Lane, very still in the cold, the way nobody ever stood, you would have seen the yellow house with 2 windows lit, a mother and a father in the blue light of a television, and above them, in the dark 2nd story, behind a closed door, you would have heard it. Children, 3 of them, playing. Aki Act 3. On the first Saturday of December, Dana Merrick woke at 7 and lay still, listening, and could not find what was wrong with the house. Then she found it. Silence. Not the good silence. She knew every grade of that house's quiet by now. She was a connoisseur of it. This was the other kind, the old apartment kind, the kind that used to mean Lily was somewhere she shouldn't be, doing something she shouldn't do. Lily was an alarm clock. Lily had been up at 6 every day of her life, feet on the floorboards, door, hallway, the whole percussion of her. It was 7, and the house lay flat and still as held breath. Dana was at Lily's door in under a minute. She knocked. She said her name. She opened it. The bed was empty, slept in, pillow dented, blanket thrown back, but empty and cooling. The toys sat in their half circle on the floor, facing the bed, facing nothing. "Lily, give Dana this, because it is the last thing there is to give her." She did not wait. She did not make coffee and assume. 5 years of vigilance came off the shelf intact, and inside of 2 minutes she had done the circuit. Bathroom, closets, her own room, Owen's door. Owen. Owen, is your sister in there? Owen. Nothing, Moody, no time. Down the stairs, kitchen, living room, the coat closet Lily hid in once in week 1. Ray. Ray came down 2 stairs at a time with sleep still on him, and the morning broke into the shape these mornings have. Rooms called out and crossed off, the backyard in bare feet and December cold. The street, her name in 2 voices, front door, locked, back door, locked, chained, windows, locked, all of them, first floor and second, locked from inside. She's in the house, Ray said. Okay, she's in the house, she's hiding, it's a game. Lily, Lily. And the house, which had been listening, agreed with him. From upstairs, muffled, bright, unmistakable, came a giggle. Dana's whole body went toward it like a compass needle. Lily's giggle. Lily's, absolutely, a sound she could have picked out of a stadium. It came from up, from the left, from her room. It had to be her room. They took the stairs together, shoulder to shoulder, and burst into a room that was exactly as empty as it had been. Behind them, across the hall, through Owen's shut door, the giggle came again. Owen! Ray had the door open before the name was done. Owen's bed was made. Owen's bed was made the careful, lumpy way a child makes a bed, and the room had a stillness that was wrong in a way neither of them could afford to look at directly. And it was empty. It smelled cold. It smelled like wet stone. They had no time to wonder where he was. The giggle came from downstairs. Then, while they stood at the top of the stairs, hearts slamming, from the end of the upstairs hall. Then from the wall, from inside the wall. Understand, they were not hearing a ghost. They were hearing plumbing that wasn't plumbing, acoustics with intent. And they did what parents do, which is the thing the house wanted. They chased. Living room, empty. The giggle sliding away into the ceiling. Kitchen, empty. The giggle surfacing down the hall. 10 minutes, 15. Ray tore open the coat closet so hard the rod came down. Dana stood in the middle of her living room, turning in a slow circle like a woman in deep water. And then she stopped, because the giggle came again, right beside her, at knee height, and this time she did not lunge at it. She looked at it. She was looking at the brass register low in the wall, the big grill, the one that had smelled of cold stone in October. The sound was coming out of the vent, all of it. It had been coming out of the vents the whole time, thrown around the house the way ducts throw sound, surfacing in whatever room the metal chose. She got down on her knees on the floor and put her face to the grill and cupped her hands and looked into the dark, and the dark breathed furnace warm on her face, and from somewhere inside it, distant, small, happy, moving, her daughter giggled. Lily, Dana said into the wall. Lily, honey, it's Mama. The giggle stopped, and a voice came back along the metal, small and clear and pleased. You're getting warmer. Ray was already running for the stairs. Because he had understood it one beat before Dana said it, the geometry of it. Where does a 5-year-old get into the walls? And he hit Lily's doorway and crossed the room, and there it was. And it had been there every day, and they had walked past it every day. The register at the base of her wall, the grill standing open on its hinge like a small door. The screws lay in a neat row on the floorboards, 4 of them, lined up the way a patient person lines things up. Lily could not use a screwdriver. The duct behind the opening was sheet metal, and it was big. This was a 1958 house, built fat around its furnace with rectangular trunk lines running between the floors, metal the size of a crawl space, big enough for a child to move through on hands and knees. He put his phone's light into it, silver walls going away into black, dust streaked long by small hands and small knees, many times over. weeks of times. "Call 911, Ray said. He was already taking his sweatshirt off, already down on the floor. "Ray, she's in there, Dana." And from the duct, distant, moving somewhere in the deep of the house, delighted, "Daddy! Daddy! Find me!" There are moments a person is entirely doomed and entirely themselves. Ray Merrick, who had missed dinners and school things and every worrying sign in that worrying autumn, Ray heard his daughter ask to be found, and there was nothing in the world that could have kept him out of that wall. He was a father, and he was 41, and his shoulders barely went through. Inside, the duct held him like a coffin holds. He could not crawl. He inched, arms out ahead, hips wedging, the metal booming and buckling under him in soft thunder, dust in his teeth, phone light swinging its little cone. The trunk ran level between the floors, joists shouldering it every few feet, and the cold stone smell lay in it, thick as water, and he moved through the dark inside the body of his own house. "Lily, stay where you are, baby. Daddy's coming." Her giggle came from ahead, always from ahead. He followed it left at a junction, and the duct pitched upward, a riser, climbing over a beam toward the second-floor runs, and he climbed it, boots skidding on metal, and the sweat on him went cold, and somewhere in him one small question kept knocking at the same shut door. How did the screws come out? Who unscrewed the vent? Who taught her? Who unscrewed the vent? And he would not answer it, yet. "Lily." "Warmer," said her voice, right ahead around the bend. "Daddy, you're so warm." He hauled himself up the last of the riser, into the long trunk that ran high over the living room, and came to a junction shaped like a T. His light showed him the choice, left into black, right into black. He stopped, chest heaving in the tight metal, and listened, and heard nothing, and the nothing had a held breath quality, a hiding quality, and every hair on him stood up at once, and from his right, out of the dark, they came. Crawling, fast and light and utterly at home. 3 children, single file, crossing the junction an arm's length from his face. A small boy first, in blue pajamas, hair stuck up at the back, moving swift and certain. Then Owen. Owen, his son, his silent son, crawling quick and easy with the grey rabbit clamped in one hand, eyes ahead, laughing. Ray had not heard Owen laugh in. Owen. Then Lily last, giggling, her bare feet flashing in the phone light, gone. Not one of them looked at him. They poured across the junction and away into the left-hand dark like 3 fish, and their laughter went with them, and the metal did not boom under them. It had boomed under him with every inch. Under the 3 children, the steel had made no sound at all. Ray Merrick's body understood it all at once, the whole autumn, the plates, the silence, the smell. His body understood it in the wordless total way bodies do, and his body did the only thing left in its inventory. It panicked. He tried to turn in a space that did not allow turning. He thrashed. His elbow hit the trunk wall like a struck drum. His boots hammered, his chest crushed itself for air that was suddenly not there. And the old duct, which had hung for 70 years on its straps and screws, and had held every pound of him at its edges, took his weight all at once in its middle. The strap gave. The seam went. The floor of the metal world opened underneath him. He fell through the duct and through the lath and through the living room ceiling in a fist of plaster and silver dust, 11 feet down into the room where his coffee had gone cold on 100 inattentive evenings, onto the big oak coffee table. The sound was enormous, and then it was done, and plaster ticked down out of the hole for a while, into the quiet like snow. Dana was in the kitchen with the phone in her hand when the ceiling came down in the next room. The call had not connected. The phone was still ringing in her ear when the crash took the house like a wave takes a boat, and the lights flinched, and her legs were moving before her mind had translated it. Ray. She was 3 steps from the living room doorway. "Mom." The word took her feet out from under her better than any hand could have. because it was Owen's voice. And Owen's voice she had not heard. When had she last? He was standing in the hall doorway on her left, between her and the dark of the stairs, small and still in the half-light, looking up at her, her son, speaking to her. "Owen, baby, where? The ceiling, your father." The words fell out of her in pieces. In the next room something settled and ticked. The ringing stopped and her hand hung down and the phone hung in it, forgotten, a lit rectangle by her thigh. Owen looked at her with a calm that had no business on a 9-year-old in a collapsing house. "Lily's in the basement," he said. "She's hiding." And God help Dana Merrick, between the room that held her husband and the basement that held her baby, she never even felt the choice happen. It happened in the deepest, oldest part of her, in the 5-year-old vigilance, in the reflex worn smooth as a stair. "I've got Lily." She grabbed her son's hand and ran for the basement door. His hand was cold. She felt it, clearly, plainly, a cold like a doorknob in December, and her mind, which had a house falling on it, filed the cold away unread, with the memo about the screws, in the room where that family kept everything it could not afford to know. The basement stairs went down into dark. The pull-chain bulb at the bottom was dead or gone. Her phone light swung shadows off every rafter. Paint cans. The furnace, roaring soft, breathing its warm breath into the walls where her whole family had been living without her. And against the far wall, under the black geometry of the stairs, the freezer, the color of dirty milk, the lid's dust. She saw it even now, even in this. The lid's dust was smeared with handprints, small ones. "Lily." Her voice came out wrong in the concrete. "Lily, baby, it's Mama. Come out now. We have to." Beside her, Owen raised one arm and pointed at the freezer. Dana looked at the freezer and looked at her silent son pointing at it. And the last human-shaped explanation her mind would ever build assembled itself in half a second, out of dread and love, and every crime show cold open she had ever half-watched from that couch. He shut her in. Oh God, he shut her inside it. "What did you do?" she whispered. To Owen, her Owen, and the words were already the worst thing she had ever said, and she said them. And then she was across the basement floor and her hands were on the lid and she was terrified of the weight of it, of the seal of it, of how long had it. She threw it open. Toys. The freezer was dry and dead and lined to its waist with toys. The plastic pony from the bathtub, the stacking cups, the crayons, the felt book, the small survivors of a whole autumn's migration, arranged, not dumped, arranged, in the tidy, patient way a certain kind of child arranges things. And sitting on top of it all, propped upright against the freezer's wall, facing up at her, a grey rabbit with a chewed flat ear and 2 black button eyes. It looked exactly like a toy box. It looked exactly like what it was, which was a nest. Dana stared down into a dead child's toy box for 1 second, 2, 3, the phone light shaking in her hand, and every question of her autumn arrived at once, marked urgent, undeliverable, years too late. And behind her, in the dark under the stairs, something giggled. She turned. The phone light swung and caught them. 2 children stood under the stairs, in the wedge of black where the light had to bend to reach. Lily, whole, upright, in her sleep shirt, her hair a sleep tangle, her hand held companionably, easily, the way children hold hands, by a small boy in blue pajamas whom Dana Merrick had never seen in her life. Their eyes took the phone light the way animals' eyes take headlights. Flat, bright, wrong. Every instinct Dana had was screaming in 2 directions at once, and the mother in her outvoted the animal in her the way it always had. "Lily!" Her voice shook and she made it warm. She crouched. She held out her free hand into the dark, palm up, the way you do. "Lily, honey, come here. Come to Mommy." The two children looked at each other, in the dark, the way you look at someone when the game is over. Then they took 2 steps forward, together, out of the black, and the light reached their faces, and their faces were almost right. Almost. Both faces were nearly right. Lily's round cheeks, the boy's freckle, but on each one, half was a beat behind the other. One eye blinked late. One corner of each smile arrived after the smile, hoisted into place, the way a thing pulls on a face it has learned from watching. Lily's face with something looking out of half of it. Dana's body was moving before her soul caught up. She heard herself make a sound. The sound, the one that lives in the chest of every parent in that house, waiting for its night. And her hand found Owen's cold hand in the dark, snatched it, gripped it, and she was hauling her son toward the stairs, up the stairs, 2 at a time, wood cracking underfoot, the dark of the basement swelling behind her like water, the doorway above her a rectangle of kitchen light. Salvation, 10 steps, 5. Her hand hit the door, and the small cold hand inside her other hand pulled, hard, backward, down, not a stumbling child's drag, an anchor's pull, a pull with the whole dark behind it. And in the same instant, in front of her face, without a hand near it, the basement door slammed shut. The dark came up the stairs and put itself around her. Dana turned on her son. Fear does that. At the very end it hands the wheel to something older, and the something older was angry. She turned in the black at the top of the stairs to scream at Owen, at her boy. "What are you doing?" Owen looked up at her. She could just see him, the line of him. The pale of his face below her, 1 step down, his hand in hers, his face lifting toward her in the dark, her firstborn, her quiet one, her overlooked, unphotographed threshold child. "Mom," Owen said, "why didn't you find me?" And the half of his face that was still her son went out, like a window going dark. And the other half was there, had been there for weeks, and it was smiling. And the smile arrived all at once, on time, at last. And the small cold hand pulled. Dana Merrick fell backward into the dark of the stairs she had climbed 100 times with laundry on her hip, and the dark took her the whole way down. Then the basement was quiet. The furnace breathed. Somewhere above, through the floor, through the ducts, through the warm pipes of the house's body, moving away, getting fainter, 3 children were giggling. The house had never sounded so full. The police came on Wednesday. Ray Merrick's office had called the house Monday and Tuesday and got the machine. Tuesday night, the next-door neighbor stood on his porch in the cold, with his dog refusing to come inside, and noticed 2 things about the yellow house. Every light in it was on, and there was a smell on the wind coming off it. Faint, wrong, the kind you tell yourself is a raccoon under a porch. The dog would not stop looking at the upstairs windows. The neighbor called before midnight. The officer who took the welfare check had entered that house twice before, once when Daniel Hayes disappeared, and once after Mark and Claire Hayes died. He was not a young man anymore. He sat in the car for a moment at the curb, looking at the house, the way a man looks at a dog that has bitten him twice. Then he went in. They found Ray Merrick in the living room, on the broken table, under the hole in the ceiling. They found Dana Merrick at the bottom of the basement stairs. The coroner had gentle words ready, from long practice in that county. He wrote blunt force, consistent with a fall for one. He wrote the same in its way for the other. Accidental deaths, both, structurally speaking. A man crawls into ductwork after a hiding child. A duct fails. A mother rushes down dark stairs. Terrible. Explicable. The children were another matter. The children were not in the house. They cut open every duct in it. The fire department did it with saws, section by section, silver metal peeled back all through the walls like the house was being operated on. They found small handprints in 40 feet of dust. They found a sock. In the deep trunk over the living room at a junction shaped like a T, they found a child's drawing folded in 4, a yellow house, and in the yellow house's window, 4 small figures holding hands. 3 of the figures could be matched to children in the case files. The 4th could not. Nobody at the scene said that out loud. They did not find the children. Not in the ducts, not in the crawl space, the attic, the yard, the woods behind the fence line, the county, the state. No door had been unlocked. No window had been opened. 2 children had been in that house on Friday night, and on Wednesday the house did not have them. And between those 2 facts, the investigation walked in a circle for 11 months, and then sat down. The case stayed open. Cases like that stay open the way wells stay open. The officer who had been there twice before stood at the top of the basement stairs for a long time on the Wednesday, with the lights on and his people moving through the house behind him. He did not go down. There was nothing down there but paint cans and a furnace and an old chest freezer with its lid standing open, full of toys. He looked at it from the top of the stairs for a long moment. A man doing arithmetic he did not want the answer to. Then he turned off the basement light and closed the door and went home and did not sleep. The realtor got the listing back in February. He was a practical man. He had sold that house twice, and twice it had come back to him the same way, and a practical man can hold 2 thoughts at once, that houses are not haunted, and that this one could no longer be sold as it stood, not in that county, not with its name in the paper twice, so it would stop being the same house. That was the plan, and it was a good plan, and he said the word to the contractors with real satisfaction. Got it. New kitchen, new bathrooms, new paint inside and out. Grey, he specified. A nice modern grey, no more yellow. New floors, new fixtures, patch that ceiling and clear it out. All of it. Every stick the previous owners left. He wanted the house empty as an egg. The clean-out crew came on a Thursday in March. 2 trucks, 6 men. It was ordinary work and they did it in an ordinary way, radio on, back and forth down the ramp. Couch, beds, dressers, the broken coffee table, boxes of a family's kitchen taped shut by strangers. The men had heard something about the place. Men always have. Nobody said much. The radio handled it. The freezer was the last thing because the freezer was the worst thing. An old chest unit, dead weight, wedged in under the basement stairs like it had grown there. 2 of them worked it out with a dolly and a lot of language, and at the foot of the ramp, sweating in the cold, one of them cracked the lid to see if there was anything inside making it heavier. Huh, he said. Toys. Kids' stuff. Cups and ponies and crayons, laid in neat as you like. The 2 men looked at it, and the older one, who knew what had happened in the house and had a rule about it, said, "Leave it, it all goes." But the younger one was already reaching in, because sitting on top, propped up against the wall of the freezer, looking at him with 2 black button eyes, was a rabbit. Grey, soft, washed clean by somebody sometime, so many times its fur lay flat. One ear chewed thin, the way loved things get. It was, he would have told you, in better shape than half the toys he'd bought new. He had a daughter, 4 years old. She had a birthday in April, and money was what money always is in March. He glanced at the older man's back, and he took the rabbit, and he brushed it off against his jacket, and he carried it up the ramp and set it on the dashboard of the truck. It sat there all afternoon while they finished the house, propped against the windshield, its button eyes pointed back down the lawn, watching the front door. They pulled away at dusk with the last load. If you had been standing on the sidewalk on Eldridge Lane, very still, in the cold, the way nobody ever stood, you would have seen the truck go, and the rabbit's small grey head in the windshield, riding away toward a 4-year-old girl in another town. And behind it, the house, dark, empty as an egg, a contractor's sign in the yard where the realtor's sign would go. Empty, except that as the truck's taillights turned off the lane, in the upstairs window, the small bedroom, the one with yellow light in the afternoons, something shifted. 3 small shapes, close together, the way children stand at a window to watch something go. And if you had stayed very still, very cold, long after dark, you might have heard it, thin and bright, coming from nowhere in the empty house. From the walls, a giggle, then a second one, then a third, still playing.